So day 5 here, we are looking at the 4 Ps of marketing. What's kind of cool about this, guys, just so you know, like if you look up the marketing mix here, if you just Google this, the 4 Ps of marketing, this is not a NASA thing. Like you can see there's a ton of graphics out there and courses out there and educational videos and this and that. The marketing mix, this is actually a really common thing just in the world of general marketing. Basically what it comes down to, actually, this is great. Here's an example of Coca-Cola's 4 Ps, I think. Right? Am I crazy? Oh, I thought I saw it. I was like, that's brilliant. Yeah, here we go. So like Coca-Cola, right? Their product, they have like 3,300 different products in their product line, which is kind of interesting. The place that they are marketing to, they're all over the place, right? They're really marketing it to anybody. So they have a very diversified portfolio. That means that they're not really specializing in anything. They're kind of marketing to everybody. Their price, they're not like one of the cheaper sodas. They're actually one of the, more expensive when it comes to sodas. I mean, obviously it's a bottle of soda. It's not like it's, going to cost you your life savings or anything, but it's definitely more expensive than, when I was growing up, we would always drink like the Shasta or like the Safeway brand sodas and stuff. And then advertising and marketing, I mean, there's a ton that they do in the world of promotion. So they have like a really, really, really diverse line of like marketing strategies where they do like a lot of different promotions, commercials, print ads, cross promotions between like other products and stuff. So those are all the things that they're considering. That's what the marketing mix is. And that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. Obviously, this is not a marketing class or anything like that, but in order to be a successful personal trainer, you want to think about like, okay, if I'm trying to like build my career, this is all the stuff you want to think about before you go into business for yourself. How are you going to market yourself? Like what's your niche going to be if you have one? Are you just going to be a jack of all trades? Like that can work too, but whatever it is, you kind of want to have like almost like a message or an idea of like who you are, what your identity is, and like how you're going to be applying that to this industry, right? And so like myself, for instance, like I have generally focused on being like a corrective exercise specialist. Like that's something that I've spent a lot of my career on, but I've also kind of like I'd spent a lot of time like working on the idea of like cardio and running and stuff because that's something that I just happen to be really passionate about. And so when it comes down to like how I market myself, like if I was going into to get a job at like a gym today, I would tell people it's like, hey, if you're looking for a personal trainer who knows a lot about like corrective exercise and how the body's supposed to move and how to fix it, if there's like any movement compensations or issues and things like that, I'm your man. That's exactly, who I am. Or let's say I was trying to market, go into personal training, just get my own personal training storefront business off the ground, right? First I'm gonna, develop my 4 Ps, right? What's my product? What's my price, my place, and my promotion? Am I going to be like a high-priced trainer? That can be okay. I can market that. Am I going to be like, value-based, like, on the cheap? That's also totally okay. In that case, I'm going to focus on like large volume, so these are all the kind of things you want to think about before you start to go into business for yourself. You want to think about like how you are going to market your product. And for most of you guys, your product is going to be you. I mean, obviously, I don't know if any of you guys are like, we were talking about like, I think we were talking about it on Thursday. I have an ex-student, Sine, like she had no interest in being a trainer. She came to Sochi so that she could learn how to, exercise properly, actually, and learn a little bit about like, the industry so that would help her on like the influencer side of things. And her product is actually like clothing, if you're gonna do something like that, that's okay too. Maybe you're not planning on like being a trainer. Maybe you want to open your own gym. I've got plenty of students who are running gyms out of their garages, even during the pandemic here. So, That's all. This is all the stuff. This is all like the preemptive. It's like your vision for your future, almost, in a way. Sort of what we're looking at today. So we're pivoting out of how to work, for someone else, and pivoting into sort of how to work for yourself. So when we're talking about this, the first things you need to do before you ever start actually like doing any of the like writing, marketing, and stuff, you need to kind of come up with the ideas here. And obviously you should write these down. I said, I was like, before you start writing, it's like, no, you should write this. But you need to kind of come up with like these sort of three main strategies here before you even get started. And so when we're talking about marketing today, what we're describing are the ways an individual promotes their goods or services. You could be the world's greatest personal trainer, but if you don't got anybody like doing, training during your sessions, it doesn't really amount to much, right? So that's really what we're looking for here. So step one, first thing you need to do, you need to identify any potential customer needs. Now, luckily for you guys, this is the health and fitness industry. Like these needs are pretty prevalent, pretty obvious, but you want to ask yourself, like, what is something that the health and wellness industry needs, right? Like what's something that someone that is, trying to get into this actually needs. So for instance, like, Sochi, obviously, like if you were to look at like Sochi's marketing, right? Sochi is a health and wellness school, right? We got the personal training program, we got the massage therapy program, the physical therapy aid program, medical assistant, medical billing, and coding. Right? That's a lot of medical based stuff, which makes a lot of sense because like the other business that our owner Marina runs is like a senior daycare situation, right? Where like seniors who need like supervision, but they don't necessarily need like in-house supervision. And so she was already in like a medical based field when like Sochi came along and was like approached her, right? So that like makes a lot of sense. Like, the needs that she kind of recognized right away is the fact that like people need like health-based services, right? Like in our industry, like people need, we know that there are potential like students out there who want to get into healthcare in one capacity or another, or in the personal training world and in the fitness world, right? Which is really healthcare in my opinion. But like, we know that people want to get into that because like what people need is they need like a job that is sustainable, and healthcare is something that will never go away. People need, to learn the information, but they need it on the quick, right? So that's why this is a vocational school. Is because like this is much shorter than like a traditional college path, and people need like it to be very work focused, right? Like if you're gonna like get into the industry right away, that's one thing that I don't think college does very well. That's one thing that I'm super critical of when it comes to traditional like 4-year degrees, is that like a lot of times they teach you how to be a really great student to pass like the program and get your degree, but sometimes they don't prepare you for the real world, whereas like vocational schools I think actually do a really good job of this. Like vocational means work focus, so they were looking to fill the needs of people who kind of recognize that, right? Give you a different example, just because I'm trying to fire out a couple different examples and kind of light your brains up here. Looking at like when I ran like my own boot camps and stuff, I was like, okay, what do people need? People need, easy access to like exercise. So what'll happen is like I'm gonna run my boot camps at the same time every week in the same location. It'll be really convenient. Birds fly, fish swim. This boot camp will always be here at this time. And that way, like people knew that like, and they were allowed to come as many times as they want. I didn't want to necessarily do like sessions. I actually really didn't want to track like, all right, you bought a package of 8, you got 7 left, I didn't want to do anything like that. So I was like, it's going to be a flat rate. You can come for this many dollars a month, and you can come as many times as you want. Your membership is completely unlimited. And that way, like, people can meet as many times. You could get as much out of your membership as you wanted, right? So what I was like trying to identify was like, people want convenience, and obviously people want to get fit. People want like a fun outdoor experience, so I focused on making my boot camps as fun as possible. I used to do all these goofy themes, I would do little workshops, all of those things that I thought were like a good need. So luckily you guys are getting into an industry, the personal training industry, right? Health and wellness are things that are not going away. Like these are things that people will need into infinity, um, and like that may manifest itself in like a couple different ways. People might need something else as well. Like right now, I mean, obviously, like during this whole freaking lockdown world that we're living in, people not only still need wellness and health and stuff, but people also need like convenience or like an at home approach to things, which is why we're seeing so many like Zoom trainers. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I'll bet all of you, I can't say this for certain, but I'll bet everybody in here has seen ads that are like how to market your online personal training business, like some video, some YouTube guru who's like, I was able to get myself so many clients in this much time. Are you guys getting ads like that? Because you guys are definitely probably watching like, reading articles about like personal training or just exercise in general. Has your algorithm figured out that you're trainers yet? Anybody?
Yes.
You're getting those? They're
all over my Instagram.
Well, guess what? They're not going away because I've been getting them for years. So yeah, like, but I mean, they're not necessarily wrong. Like what they're marketing is like they know that personal trainers need to be better at marketing, and so they're marketing to personal trainers who are marketing to customers. Like it's a very roundabout situation. I would love to teach you how to cut out the middleman with today's lesson. So that's your first step. You need to identify like what potential customer needs are, right? And today we'll do like a fake. I'll kind of take you through. We'll do a fake like business example. Like if I wanted to have like a startup, this is a real idea that I had for a business, by the way. I just wasn't. I don't know. I thought it was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea, actually. I believe in the idea, but I don't believe in my gumption to want to make it a reality. So if anybody in here wants to steal this, you are more than welcome to. But I always had the idea for like a super assessment business. The idea that like someone could come in and get like a full workup of everything they need to know about their body. Body fat testing through like DEXA scanning, which would do like bone mineral density, movement and posture analysis, cardiovascular assessment, VO2 and stuff like that. And just all these things, you would throw it into like a storefront, like next to a 7-Eleven or something, like it wouldn't be an expensive, we don't need a full-size gym or anything like that. But then like, you just have like a bunch of trainers who are allowed to like post in your, you're not there to like train anybody. You're just there to like fire out assessment after assessment after assessment, and then like people could learn everything that they need to know. It's like, hey, here's the type of exercises you need to be doing. You could write them programs, and that's great. They could get like a centralized program, but you don't actually have to do any of the physical training. But maybe you have some trainers that you're in contact with or on staff or something that are interested in doing that, right? Well, that's where like you can sort of market that, right? So I'm going to kind of use that as like our proto example today. You guys are welcome to steal it. I've taught this class a couple times and I've always used it as an example. So who knows, maybe we'll even have competition someday. But, potential customer needs, people need to be educated. In this example, people need to be educated and people need data about why they have aches and pains, why their body is the way it is, maybe why they're not getting the results they want. There's even like the DNA test, there's like the 23andMe stuff. And you do that and like, they'll tell you like if you're sensitive to sugars and stuff nowadays. I don't put too much stock in stuff like that, but it exists. So it's marketable. So that's your first step. Identify your potential customer needs. Before you ever start going into business for yourself, you definitely need to know what it is out there in the world that people need. And luckily, being that you're going into a specialized field like personal training, that's kind of done for you a little bit. Step 2, you need to develop the appropriate product or service to satisfy those needs. So like, you know, once you have, oh shoot, I just realized I needed to move forward a slide already. So seek out the services of people are going to seek out personal training for a variety of reasons. It could be to improve their appearance. It could be to improve their performance, right? So maybe you open, you know, if the needs are to improve performance, maybe you're going to focus on athletics. If it's to improve their appearance, maybe you're going to be focusing on aesthetics, or maybe it's just to improve their general health, which means maybe your approach is to make sure that your gyms are not too expensive and convenient, so that like anyone can get healthy easily. Whatever the reasons are, at the end of the day, people are trying to improve their quality of life. We've talked about that, right? Doesn't matter like if they're an athlete, you know, a senior trying to get fit. At the end of the day, it's all a quality of life improvement. So you're trying to develop a product that improves people's lives in some capacity. Then you need to, yeah, like I said, in step 2, you need to develop that product or service, right? And that's the thing. A lot, you know, you're going to hear me use the word product a lot. For the most part, we are focusing on services, you know, personal training as like a service. But maybe you decide to do like a, you know, an actual product. That's where you get like those freaking ab belt zapper things, you know. It's like their product that they're selling, right, is junk, but what they're selling is like this product. They're like that's like, hey, everybody wants to look better and nobody wants to put any effort in, so we developed a product to meet that, right? It'll make you look better with no effort. And you know, no, it won't. But like that's what those ab belts are for, you know, the shake weight and all that like at home stuff. That is, you know, pretty much worthless. But to develop the appropriate product or service, you know, you need to figure out like, you know, what those needs are and how you're going to satisfy them. So you know, we know that like obviously when people are not fit, people that not move enough, we know that they have a greater risk for obesity, diabetes, heart disease, musculoskeletal dysfunction, just in general. Like people are just going to have general aches and pains. So if we know that all of that is true, right? If we know that like those are things that people are going to struggle with, if we develop a product that meets, you know, the needs of people who are struggling with obesity, or maybe you get a diabetic specialist certification. Maybe like after you guys graduate, you know, you're looking for your 2 years. There is like, let's see here, watch this. Personal training, diabetic certification. There is literally Diabetes Motion Academy, level 1 diabetes certified diabetes trainer. So, you know, this is going to be, it is worth 18. So that means it's going to be 1.8. Is NASM not on here? What are you doing? They don't have NASM listed. That's crazy. So these are like certifications that they offer, right? Like this program right here. These are all these other personal training. Here's ACSM. Like I said, it's always NASM's biggest competitor. Every company out there uses like, you'll notice it says 18. It's not 18 CEUs. It's just ACSM requires 20. They all have like their own system for things. I think they call them CECs. But you know, so this would probably be 1.8 in NASM lingo. But you can see like, oh, there we go. There's one that's worth 0.6 here. Oh wait, am I wrong? Oh yeah, no. So anyway, this is a diabetic specialist certification, right? So maybe that's a need that you see. Maybe you're in an area where that's the thing that you want to market, right? So when you're developing your product, you are your product, right? Like that's what you guys are doing right now. Like you guys kind of already recognize the need for like health and wellness. So you're developing your product, which is you, and you're here to get educated. You know, that's why we're studying personal training. So, you know, what else do you need to do? If you're going to open like a brick and mortar personal training gym, right? Let's say you're going to open a gym or a storefront or something like that. You know, what product do you need to meet those needs? For myself, like I said, like the idea of assessments, like people need to be educated on why they have aches and pains, why they're not getting the results they think they should be getting, right? And so like I wanted to develop a product that would sort of open people's eyes to that, and it would be very convenient for them to kind of book it in. It would take them, 20, 30 minutes to go through like a whole assessment process and, get out the door, get a program and get moving. And I always thought it was kind of cool because like you could have like a pretty junky personal trainer who could take all that information and they'd still be able to whip up a pretty good routine on it. That's actually where this whole idea came from. It didn't come from like the idea that assessments are a necessity. It actually came from the idea that like I remember I had this like it was so very long ago, but it was like I remember working at gyms and people would kind of complain about like certain coworkers and they'd just be like, they just don't know this and that and this, and I was like, well, if they had more data, they would, you could make it dummy proof. Anybody could write a good program if they had the right amount of information. And I was like, that'd be kind of a cool business. So, what certifications do you need to get to, meet the needs of this population? You guys are luckily, again, you're already kind of getting that, right? Like you guys are walking out of here with corrective exercise, which is something almost everybody needs, and nutrition, which is, that's actually why we went with nutrition. I'd say, I think you guys have heard me say this before, and I'm definitely going to say it again on Friday. Friday, we're going to start our sports performance class, which is NASM's. It's based on their PES certification, the Performance Enhancement Specialist certification. But, that's our program design class this mod, right? Just like we did seniors last mod, we're going to do athletes this mod. And I would say that's NASM's second biggest certification. So I've had students before say like, hey, why do you like if you're trying to like make Sochi as marketable as possible, obviously people won't wear it that way. But if they're like, why do we get like the corrective and why didn't you go with the sports one? Because the sports one is like definitely NASM's second biggest, right? Like corrective is their number one. Well, their regular certification is number one. Corrective is number two. Sports is definitely number three. So a lot of times like people are like, they'll ask like, why not get the three biggest? And it's like, honestly, because the sports one just isn't as marketable. I like it. It's a great textbook. I think the information is really fun. It teaches things in a really kind of fun way, which I really like because it's taking it from like a different perspective, which is really, really cool. And it's got some athlete specific stuff. You want to work with a football player? Great. It's got some programs in there specifically for football. You want to work with soccer? Great. It's got some specifically soccer stuff. So I really do like it. But people always ask, like, why not market that on the Sochi side of things? And it's because like it just doesn't have you're not going to hit as many people. There just aren't as many people who are looking for athletic training as there are people who are looking for information about nutrition. Everybody struggles with eating properly. Not that many people are looking to be a world-class athlete, and so it's a marketing thing. Now, obviously, in 2 years, when you need to recertify and you're looking for CEUs, you're looking to continue your education, that's an opportunity for you to further specialize in something. So maybe you go get that sports one, maybe that is the type of person you want to work with. Maybe you get the senior one, maybe you get the youth one, so that's how you're going to develop a product to meet any of your potential customer needs. Like what certifications do you need? Where do you need to be located, right? You look at like certain gyms being located in certain areas. It depends on sort of like what their touch is, like Equinoxes are always in places like Beverly Hills and Santa Monica and, down middle of Hollywood and stuff like that. Cause Equinox is, it's a gym, but they're selling like a lifestyle, that's really what they're marketing. But if you look at like places like 24, they're usually in the most busy parts of like an area. And if you look at Crunch, usually Crunches, which have some of the lowest membership fees, I will say there are two types of Crunches. The Crunch franchises, not the Crunch corporate. Crunch corporate is like almost like Equinox, like they're still pretty bougie. But Crunch franchises are usually in areas where, a lower membership cost is the big appeal. Planet Fitness does the same thing. Planet Fitness likes to, be in areas that are, economically going to be less expensive. So that's the product that they're marketing. They're marketing convenience and price. And then what time stuff is offered? Maybe that's something that you market to. I would always market to early morning crowds because that's where, the time I wanted to work. And I recognize the needs. Like a lot of people don't have time to work out after work. A lot of people have time to work out before work, So that's how you're going to develop your product, right? You're going to sort of like look at these needs that people have and, you know, try to come up with a way to like solve a lot of their problems. And then lastly, you need to promote your services. And that's what we're going to spend most of our time talking about today, right? So we're going to promote our services in a cost-effective manner. How can you get your product to meet needs that is effective, but also, you know, not too expensive? So what do you got to do to like, you know, save money in certain ways so that you know, don't have to pay a lot? Like in the world of personal training, there are trainers gyms where trainers can go and actually train their clients, and they just pay a little bit of rent. I used to train a few clients at this place called At One Fitness in North Hollywood. I'm almost scared to look this up because I'm really hoping they survived. It says temporarily closed. I still have a couple people I know that like train here. Did they kill their website just because it's like already down? Or is my internet still just being exceptionally slow? Who knows? Let's go to their Facebook page because there we go. Man, I just got to close every website today. What's going on? All right, so here's, you know, At One, right? So they have personal training, they do dance, they do Muay Thai classes. Online CEU course, that's new. I don't know what that is. That's them clearly marketing towards something else, right? They must have like, what is this? A Muay Thai personal trainer. Okay, they got 1.9 NASM credits for this. This must be a pretty heavy course, actually. 1.9, NASM doesn't usually hand that out unless it's many, many, many hours. Look at that, good for them, nice job. I never did any of the Muay Thai stuff while I was there. I just showed up, paid my membership fee, you know, trained my clients and left. So they are like a gym that has like clients who are just clients, but they also offer like personal training. Technically, they don't have like a training department. They have trainers who are like there, and they can bring their clients to this facility. So I would get my clients enrolled with a membership. I'd say, hey, you know, you want to train with me? I need a gym so that I can have the equipment to train you. We're going to get you a membership at this gym here. You are welcome to use it whenever you want. And then I'm going to pay rent whenever I'm training you. And that rent, by the way, was like part of their membership fee. Like I would, you know, I would just, it was $15 an hour. And so like, let's say just for the sake of argument, like when I first started, I was charging like $60 an hour. So I would charge 75 an hour, so that like they would eat that membership cost, not me, right? So that's sort of how the personal training works, right? And they have like some that are just around. And so like if you were to like be a stranger to walk into this gym, they have a ton of like, you know, trainers already that like, you know, just have like their phone numbers and stuff listed. And I don't think this ever happened to me actually, but I know I'd hear some of the other people like say it. I wasn't around that often compared to some of the, I knew people who were there like, you know, 40 hours a week. But I also trained out of people's like living rooms and stuff for a little while as well. So I wasn't around that often at One. But you know, they would like call these trainers and be like, hey, you know, Irene, I got this lady who just showed up and she's looking for a female trainer. Do you have any, you know, space available, right? And they reach out to you. So that's kind of cool. And then trainers, like I said, you can bring your clients, right? And so let's see here. It was 15 an hour when I was there. Let's see if that is still the case. Pay policy. Oh,
Brad, this is kind of like the hair salons where Salon Republic, how they rent out spaces for stylists and they pay a monthly fee. Same concept, huh?
It is like that. I have never once thought that, but it is like that. I didn't know that was even a thing. I didn't know that was a thing for years. I learned that like 2 years ago, but it is exactly like that. Yeah, like a stylist will pay, you know, for time in a chair. You know. Your client must train with you once per week in order to have a $20 rate. Okay, so it's $20 now. Yeah, it's gone up. You know, I was there years and years ago. That makes sense. $20 is still not bad. They validate. Yeah, that's all normal stuff. So $20 an hour. So you'd want to like charge 20 more above your normal rate. So that maybe is the kind of thing that you're looking for. Like maybe that's exactly what you're offering. Like you're a personal trainer who has access to a full gym. But on the flip side, maybe you're like, you know what? I don't think people are going to want to pay this additional, when my prices with this additional 20 are built in, when that's built into the price, maybe people don't want to pay that. Maybe, and I'm not going to market a luxury service. That's not really what I'm interested in marketing. The product I want to sell is, convenience. And I want to be, at a reasonably lower premium. So then maybe instead of working in a place like this, you decide to market your services as like, hey, I will come to you. My prices are going to be this, and I have equipment that I've already purchased, and we're going to train out of your living room. And that's great too. Both of those are totally different approaches, but they're both absolutely marketable. So we'll get into the 4 Ps here in just a second, but to kind of review what we're talking about, right? 3 most common reasons people are going to seek out personal trainers are to improve their appearance, their sports performance, general health, right? But no matter what, it's all a quality of life thing. So are you marketing? Are you developing yourself a product, right? For improved appearance? Cool. Maybe in a couple of years when you guys need to do your first, CEUs, you do NASM's weight loss specialist. Because this is all about like weight loss, and it does cover weight gain as well. This is basically as close to NASM gets to, bodybuilding. They have a lot of information about like how to burn as many calories, but they also have a lot of information for how to manage calories. So if you are trying to like gain weights because you want to gain muscle, right? All right, cool. Maybe that's exactly what you decide to do. There's your WLS certification. You put that on your resume, you put that on your marketing materials. You're like, I'm specialized in this. And you generally focus on like appearance stuff. Maybe that's also the things that we're going to look at that when we get to promotion down here in just a little bit. But when you're promoting your services, you're going to include pictures of like, that are based around appearance. Maybe it's the desire to improve sports performance. So the product that you're going to develop in yourself is maybe you're going to get your PES certification. Maybe you're going to get kettlebells, outdoor physical training, all the like SAQ stuff, right? Maybe that's what you decide to market. Or maybe it's just general health. Maybe it is working with like corrective exercise, special populations, which NASM doesn't actually have a special population certification, but they do have the senior one, which I would say is as close as you're going to get. So those are products that or maybe you don't go with NASM. Maybe you go with like ACSM has a great special populations. ACSM has a super awesome special populations certification. I know I shouldn't be, ACSM is NASM's best competitor. But this exercise is medicine credential is amazing. They have cancer specialized ones. They've really focused a lot more specifically on some of these medical conditions. And maybe that's something that you decide to look at. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about quality of life. So what you are really marketing is you are trying to, show people that what you are offering will make their lives better. That's at the end of the day, all of it comes down to that. If you forget everything I say today, the one thing to remember is like what you are marketing is an improved quality of life. So let's talk a little bit about like the actual 4 Ps here. So now we got to get down to this last one, right? Like I said, like once you've developed your appropriate service, you need to figure out how you're going to promote those services in a cost-effective manner, meaning you need to figure out how you don't, how to promote yourself as a successful personal trainer without having to buy like a Super Bowl ad. The most expensive, I'm pretty sure that's the most expensive time slot for commercials in the US. Let me see if I'm right about that. What is the most expensive time slot for a commercial?
Super Bowl.
It's got to be, right? It's not like
Yeah.
In the US.
They're like millions of dollars.
points. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It used to be 2.7. It is $5.2 million for a 30-second slot. Same thing with the Academy. This is the one I was wondering, the Academy Awards too. The Oscars. Because the Oscars is actually, I mean, Super Bowl is amazing, but the Oscars are the most watched televised event in the world. Because other countries watch it, and we're the only country that cares about football. We're starting to get the UK. The UK is starting to get into football. But yeah, so that's crazy, right? Freaking 5 points. You got to figure out how to market your services without having to buy a Super Bowl ad. So let's look at that. Let's look at the 4 Ps here and how to market your services in a cost-effective, and also just effective manner, right? So promoting your services, this comes down to, like I said, they call it the marketing mix, or they'll call it the 4 Ps of marketing. Just be aware, guys, if you do see a question on your homework or in any test version, they might use either of these terms interchangeably. So the marketing mix is the 4 Ps of marketing, right? And then you'll notice this is also, actually, really quick PSA here. This is just test taking tips. This is not like a lesson or anything, but this is the kind of stuff that makes really good test questions, right? Like if you're a school or if you're a certification, writing test questions, definitions, right? Product, price, place, promotion. I wouldn't be surprised if on your homework, guys, you're going to have 4 questions that are like blank is the specific product or service being offered. So definitely spend a little bit of time on these. I will say, though, I don't want to say it's time wasted. This is not necessarily the kind of stuff like that makes you the world's greatest trainer. So get them memorized so you can pass your test. But other than that, like we look at, let's see here, NSM study guide. Hold on, that's actually going to bring up a million of them. Oh, actually, never mind. Is that the one I want? Yeah. All right, so here's the little study guide that NASM puts up on their website, right? I'm just going to scroll all the way down here to the professional development and marketing. And sure enough, there it is, the 4 Ps of marketing: product, price, place, promotion. And then there's, all their definitions and stuff. So, like I said, you're going to get this in Capstone, but like, memorize these terms. You guys know how much I hate memorization, but I also like it when you pass your tests. So, so do a little memorizing here. So the 4 Ps, what they are: product is the specific product or service that you are offering to your customers. So, you are trying to talk about like what your product is. You want to make sure you are very aware of what your product's actual identity is. For instance, I think I asked this the other day, but if I asked you guys, what is 24 Hour Fitness selling? What is their product?
24 hours open.
Totally. They are selling convenience, right? Yeah, they're a gym, but so is LA Fitness. 24 Hour Fitness is unique though, because they're like, anytime, get here, right? That's what they are selling. And that's what they're marketing. You go to Equinox. Equinox is selling an experience, right? Look at this. Look at Equinox's freaking website. It looks like an experience. Everything, like, I don't know why their gym is this color, right? Like why it's all like orangey and stuff like that. Like this looks like it's out of a movie, right? And that's what they're focusing on. Their personal training and stuff like that is focused on this kind of unique, kind of bougie experience. I'm actually shocked that this kind of looks like a sweaty person, because normally you see Equinox pictures and there's no sweat anywhere to be found. That's like, these people are able to exercise and somehow keep any drops of sweat from developing on their body. And it's like, well, models don't sweat. That reminds me of a joke I heard years ago. It was this comedian, Billy Connolly. He's like an Irish comedian, and he's talking about how like the Queen is so regal and refined. And she's like, the queen does not the queen does not get gas. Like, she's never farted a day in her life. She would just go away, gas. And then it would just leave. And that's how refined she is. That's how it feels like working at somewhere like Equinox, right? Like, it's this refined place, but that's the product that they're selling, right? And that's totally what they're going for. If you want to be that type of trainer, go for it. I think that's great. You got to figure out how to market that, right? And understand that that's your product. Price is the amount charged for your product or service. So these are things that you need to consider. I want to look at that with you guys a little bit today, talking about pricing, because I know that like a lot of trainers coming right out of school generally tend to not charge enough for their training sessions. So I'm going to sort of try to encourage you guys to charge more today.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah, what's up?
Is there people who can't really sweat?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Some people, I mean, I don't know about like can't, but yeah, like me, like I'm the opposite. Like I sweat like crazy. I sweat, I bend down to pick up a book, I'll start sweating. But yeah, some people like are just not as sweaty as like others. It kind of depends on, some of it is genetic. You got to remember like what sweat's purpose is, right? It is so that your body can cool you down. So if you tend to run hot, or if you tend to like exercise at a pretty high intensity and get hot pretty quickly, your body is going to want to start cooling down, pretty fast. So that's one of the reasons. Like sometimes I've had people go, "Oh, I just don't sweat very much," and then it's like, "Okay, challenge accepted," and then you just gotta, I just keep them working, and then eventually that kind of works up a sweat, and they go, "That was totally different than any way I've worked out before," and it's like, yeah. It's not that you don't sweat much, it's that you didn't know how to exercise in such a way, So it kind of depends. But like some people are also sweatier than others, just if you have a harder time. If your body has a harder time, like, regulating its temperature, it'll kick into sweat mode really quickly. So that's your product. Like I said, price is the amount charged. Things that you need to consider, by the way, when you're developing your product, and you're going to consider all four of these 4 Ps like simultaneously. Part of price is also like volume discounts, promotions that you're going to run, seasonal pricing, like, we just saw it. I'm not going to pull it back up. We just saw it on Asim's website. It says Cyber Monday blowout, right? That is part of like the price. That's what they're marketing, right? Currently. Are you going to do the same thing come January, like New Year's special, that's part of the price that you consider when you're considering your product. Do you guys know why they call it Black Friday?
No.
Never? Anybody? So the reason they call it Black Friday is because it's the easiest time in the year for a company to get back in the black. Which is what that means is like when you're looking at your accounting and you're looking at the books and you're determining like, well, I spent this much money on my products this month, but I made this much money. Your profits, you are earning money, you're in the black. But if you are losing money, you're in the red. And so they call it Black Friday because it's the time of year that every company gets in the black. They're all making way more money on Black Friday than any other time of the entire year. That's why like retail, if you work at a place like Target or Best Buy and stuff, that's why they don't let any employees take Black Friday off. You have like every staff member has to work on that day of the year. And it's because like they're willing to pay overtime. They are willing to pay their employees all simultaneously. They overstaff, which is going to cost them a ton of money. But they're willing to do that because the amount of money that they're going to make is astronomically higher than any other day of the year. And that's where that term comes from. So that's something that every company like Target or Walmart or whatever, that's something that they all consider when it comes to their price. And that's part of their marketing. Place is interesting. This is the channels a product or service will go through in order to reach your customer. So like place is like where you're going to market things. Like, again, like a Super Bowl ad, probably not very effective for, mom and pop personal trainer. But maybe marketing like in like a local, if there's like a newspaper that gets handed out at like a local farmer's market, you know, you go to that farmer's market and it's like, hey, I know you guys print this, you know, does it cost any money to like put an ad in that people are going home with, you know, every week when they pick up this newspaper on Sundays? And they're like, yeah, they you know, it's $100 a week to run this ad in here. And so, yeah, it's $400 a month, which is pretty pricey. But if you're getting 2 or 3 customers out of that in a 6-month period, and those 2 or 3 customers buy, let's say, $80 training sessions, and they each buy like a package of 4, you know, how many customers did I say? Let's say you get 4 customers. Yeah, four new customers, you know, 4 times 80. Actually, 4 times 4 times 80. So 16 times 80. You're going to make $1,280 off of, you did $400 a month, and say you ran it for 2 months, right? That cost you $800. So you're making an $800 profit. So that's what you need to kind of consider when it comes to, like, you know, where you're going to sometimes market your services, like what types of places you're going to do. You want to pick places that are effective. You know, I don't think a radio ad is going to help a single personal trainer. It's great for gyms, totally ineffective for mom and pop trainer, you know, for Joe Schmo. But like a small ad, something like that, putting something up at like a Starbucks or like a coffee shop coffee board. Mo, I remember the first time I met him, literally, like, well, maybe it wasn't the first time I met him, but like I remember one of the first times I ever met Mo, when he first started working at Sochi, because he got hired maybe a month and a half, 2 months after I did. And I was at first, I was like, who's this new guy? Who's, you know, my competition? But like, he, you know, when he first started working there, he was telling me how he was like, yeah, I just moved out here from Virginia. You know, I lined up, you know, this interview at Sochi, you know, before I moved out here. And I was like, that's awesome. This guy's like super motivated. And then he was like, you know, today I went and got these picked up, and he showed me, he had these like little cards that had his training information on it, all of his contact info, his address, and a little bit about like what his training services were. He's like, I'm dropping these off in my apartment complex today. And he put them in every single mail slot. And that's the kind of marketing, you know, he probably dropped $30. What is it? You go to, let's see if, go to Vistaprint right here. Vistaprint, by the way, is a website that lets you make business cards and stuff. So you guys should do this. You go here and you can get your, oh, look, Cyber Monday. You can get stuff like printed. Let's see here, Vistaprint, post. Actually, well, let's go business cards. It's probably under the business card section, but they do business cards. You can, you know, they can design it for you and stuff. I want one that's like big though. Oh, is it? No. Maybe it's just under like marketing materials, invitation, and stationery. That actually makes sense too. Let's try postcard. Okay, so here's like postcards, flyers. How did I not think of the word flyers? Ugh. Give me 4 days off and my brain turns to soup. Flyers, literally could look that up. So here's like a flyer that Mo, like, he like made a couple of these. You know, you can get, do you need more than 20,000? Probably not. Let's go with like a budget paperweight, and let's get 100 of them made. It's gonna cost you $12. That is super effective marketing for $12, right? Maybe you only get one person to sign up out of 100 flyers. One, that's a 1% sign up rate. But that one person, if they buy 4 sessions from you, paid for your you could buy 20,000 flyers at that cost. You know what I mean? So that's what we're going for when it comes to, like, you know, what channels are you going to go through? You need to pick the ones that are going to be appropriate. And then promotion is the communication of information about your product or service. So these are the different types of advertising you've got. Like I said, like radio, print, social media, right? Things like that. Social media is obviously huge nowadays. So circling back, let's go through each of these individually. So let's go ahead and take a look at product here, right? So product, like I said, is the specific product or service that you're offering your clients. There's kind of four things. I mean, obviously there's more stuff to consider than this, but there's four sort of main key areas that you guys want to consider. And I really recommend having this first one in your product line, which is variety. This is the depth that you offer within your product line. So a lot of gyms nowadays don't only offer personal training, they'll offer duo sessions. Duo sessions are incredible. You know, Charlie, let's say like you want to train with me, but you're like not super stoked about paying, you know, $80 an hour. You're like, I can't afford, you know, I want to train, you know, a couple times a week, but $80 a session is just too much. Well, what if you looked at my duo session pricing and you noticed that like, you know, for a duo session, I charge, you know, $60 per person. So you're saving $20. You're getting like a 80 off 20. You're getting a 25% discount, right? Meanwhile, me as the trainer, you're training with these two people at the same time. Both people are now charging, you know, they're both charged $60 an hour, which means I'm now making $120 an hour instead of making $80 an hour, and you're paying $60 an hour instead of paying 80. Or maybe we do small group training, right? Small group training is like where you offer it up to about usually four. Four is usually I mean, there's no real definition of what small group training is. Some people will say 3, some people will say 5. Generally, I think it's around 4. But maybe instead, Charlie, you're like, you still want to get like a personal thing, but you're like, 60 is still too steep. So you're going to bring in Noel and Raul and Robert, and all four of the, you know, you guys are going to train simultaneously in a small group manner. And now you're only paying $35 per session, and you're still getting a very personalized experience, right? So you're paying 35, you're paying 35, you're paying 35, and you're paying 35, which means I'm making $140 in an hour as a trainer, but you guys are getting a very like cheap price in comparison, right? So I definitely recommend this, guys. I tell every one of my students, don't only be a personal trainer. Have some variety within your product line. Duo sessions, small group training. Maybe you do 30-minute sessions, right? Instead of just doing a traditional hour. Now, I'm not a huge fan of 30-minute sessions. Personally, they kind of mess up your schedule. But there's something that I'll offer sometimes like on the side and be like, hey, if you want to do just like a 30-minute coaching, you can purchase like one of these and we can meet. That way I still get paid for my time, but we're not taking away time from your general personal training. So you want me to help you, you know, I'll sit down with you and we can construct like a meal plan, which again, I'm not allowed to give someone a meal plan, but I can absolutely guide them on making better decisions. So we can sit down and be like, all right, Irene, tell me what your 4 favorite vegetables are. And we're going to come up with them, you know, week by week by week. Right. Or, you know, like let's look at like, what's your favorite like protein to have during a meal? And you're like, well, chicken breast is like the classic. It's like, yeah, but if you are trying to eat a chicken breast every day for the next year, you know, eventually you're never going to go near a chicken ever again. But let's see if we can find 4 different flavors, you know, 4 or 5 different ways to like make this that'll go with some other meals. So, you know, that's actually what I did with my nephew the other day. I sat down and I was like, what's your favorite, you know, starchy carb? What's your favorite veggie? What's your favorite lean protein? And we kind of came up with some example meal plans that he can make. So there are, you know, that's a variety, you know, that's something that you can often offer within your product line. Again, we saw it earlier with Coca-Cola, right? They've got over 2,000 products, I think. You also want to consider what features and services you have. Now, sometimes these two things here blend together, features and services. They are slightly different than each other. And Nassim's probably not going to ask you about these. So don't worry since they do kind of blend together. But conceptually, they're just slightly different. Features are characteristics that kind of separate you from the competition. These are usually pretty tangible. These are usually things like features are, you know, maybe your gym offers nutrition counseling, behavior change strategies, corrective exercise, etc. Right? Like you having your corrective exercise certification, that gives you a feature. compared to a regular personal trainer who is just somebody who, knows sort of the basics, right? You guys knowing nutrition, right? Your FNS, that's a feature that you have that other trainers might not. Services, these are usually intangible. This is different. This is like the stuff that like is just offered, like I get a lot of compliment. I mean, the compliments that I get from like clients that are working with me is they're like, I really like how you take so much time to explain stuff. Now, at the same time, I've totally had that backfire. I had a perfect record at WellFit, at Biggest Loser. Sorry, this is totally just story time. At Biggest Loser, we had this thing. It was a great policy that I absolutely loved. But we had there was a comment box that guests could like leave comments, and it was really cool. The way our boss did it is she would take all those comments and email them out to every trainer on staff every week in a group email. And if it was all the positive stuff would go out to everyone. And if you ever got a negative comment, she would email you separately so that not everyone could see it. And then you and her would like sit down and talk about like how you can improve. And it was always like the same comments over and over again. It was like John's energy is so great. Like Jake is so fun. His pool class really kicked my butt. For me, I know it sounds crazy, but like my music was always like one of my biggest compliments because I used to play a lot of golden oldies. And we had a lot of like older guests, so they were totally into it. And they'd be like, Brad's music is so fun. I got a million music compliments all the time. But I got one negative one my entire time that I was there. And it was like, hey, can someone tell Brad to shut up during the stretch classes? He likes to over explain what's going on during stretching. So I'd be teaching these relaxing 30 to 45 minute stretch classes where you're supposed to be really zen. It was like a yoga class almost. And it's just like, all right, go ahead and grab behind the thigh and straighten that leg. But then there was like me, and I was in there like, so what you're going to do is you're going to grab behind your leg. And what this does, it creates autogenic inhibition. And I'd be like teaching people stuff, and they'd be like, shut up. So that's the negative comment that I got one time. But that's like one of the services that like, to me, like that's part of like my personality. Like I'm all about the teaching process. So some people are going to be into it. Some people aren't, what's your personality going to be like? Noel, are you going to be a boot camp instructor? Are you going to be screaming at people, football style, like, let's go, or are you going to be really supportive? And, a little bit more gentle. I think that both of those are totally marketable. They're just different trainers, and it's, who you want to be. So that's your services. Like I said, even just like you're the person who's like always smiling. You're the person who always gives really unique compliments. Little things like that. Those are like your services. They're almost like parts of your personality. That's something that I've always put a little bit of effort into, actually. One other one that's like sort of a pro tip. And I had someone like compliment me on this one time. I'm pretty good at noticing when people get haircuts. That sounds kind of crazy, but like that's like almost like a service. That's like part of like the a personality that I've developed through effort over the years. Like I always want to be the person at my job, at my work, who takes the time to like compliment somebody on like, effort. And it's like they go get a haircut, they change their style or something, they're putting effort in. People like to be complimented on stuff like that. Or at least in my not so humble opinion. So those are part of your product, right? And then appearance. How and to whom is your product going to be packaged? Now, appearance is kind of a fun one. Are you going to be like a down and dirty personal trainer? Are you going to be an upscale sort of bougie boutique personal trainer? Very down to earth? Like what is it that you're offering when it comes to your appearance? This is why like I washed out at Equinox like that. I'm not a, avoid sweat, stay clean personal trainer. I don't think that that is good or bad. I just think that's an accurate assessment of my personality. I'm used to wearing a hat. I want to work in a place where I get to wear a hat every day. I want to work in a place where I get to wear shorts that don't have to match my freaking top every day. It's just not part of my personality. Yet I know plenty of other trainers who it is part of their personality, and it's perfect. It works so well for them. When I started my boot camp, I was like, what was I? I was 23, 22, 22, 23, 20, 23. Didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have enough money to buy kettlebells and battle ropes and stuff like that. So I was getting on Craigslist and looking for any of the cheapest equipment that I could find. And then I was working at a gym, and like the medicine balls, literally, like, you know, somebody was slamming like you're not supposed to slam the hard shelled medicine balls, but people still do. And so what happens is they crack and they break. And I was like, perfect. And they were in the dumpster. I grabbed them and I duct taped them and I epoxied them. And I, in like Sharpie marker, wrote 10 pounds on the outside. And it looked like crap. My equipment looked rusty and taped and nasty. But I was like, that's all right. And I marketed my boot camp as like, you know, it was like all based around like gladiator training. I was like, it's down, it's dirty, it's gonna be rough and tumble. You know, like that's like how I marketed my boot camp. I was like, it's gonna be convenient, and we're here to get a workout. We don't care what our medicine balls look like, which is really just me being like, please don't notice that I'm too poor to buy nice equipment. You know, like, so you got to figure out how you're going to pivot your product. Any questions on product, guys, before we move on to price? Is that pretty clear to you guys? Okay. I feel like I might be losing everybody. All right, let's take a look at price here. So price, there's a couple different versions of price here, right? Like I said, this is going to be everything from volume discounts. Like, guys, let me tell you, you know, when it comes to like selling your services and stuff, give a discount for buying more. Yeah, you may not be making, you know, if you want to make, you know, you see yourself making 75 bucks an hour, right? Maybe that's what you want to make. But you've got somebody who's like, I'm going to buy 3 sessions a week, you know, and I'm going to buy, you know, that for 4 weeks, but I'm going to buy like 3 months worth of training. That's 12 sessions. If you can sell 36 sessions, and they're like, but I don't want to pay 75 bucks an hour. And they're like, all right, well, what if we give you a discount for buying so much? And you take it all the way down to 60. Yeah, you're losing 15 bucks an hour, but you have like the security of like all those sessions. So now maybe you're only making like 60 an hour, but you know that you've got 3 months worth of sessions lined up. That's fantastic. So when you're considering your price, I definitely recommend giving volume discounts. I know some trainers don't, which is just crazy to me. Seasonal pricing, right? You run discounts at certain times a year, and then bundle packages, right? If somebody buys something here, they also get this in addition to it. That can make your product seem more appealing. So there's a couple different ways to sort of like price your products, right? Price your services. There's cost plus. Cost plus is basically adding a percentage above like how much something costs, right? So like my parents' pet store, they would charge 1.5 times whatever it cost them for a product. So they'd charge 50%. They'd make a 50% profit on something. If they bought something for $1, they sold it for $1.50. They bought something for $2, they sold it for $3, right? So it was always like a 50% markup. So that's cost plus, right? If it costs you $20 an hour to train at One Fitness, you need to add a certain amount. You need to add that $20 into your session price, or, you know, don't. But remember, you're not going to be making as much money. So that's cost plus pricing, right? Are you going to have to drive to the location? You know, does it cost you gas money? Is there a training fee? How much do you have to pay in rent? Some places, like, it sounds kind of crazy, but like, what is it? Is it USA? No. Oh my God. Reseda. Is it USA Fitness? It is USA Fitness. Okay. So there's a USA Fitness in Reseda. And these are gyms that are all over the place, but this is the one that's actually used to be close to Sochi. To train here, to be a trainer, it is $900 a month, which sounds pretty expensive. You're like, that's my rent, right? But remember, like, if you're making a living, you're making $2,000-$3,000 a month, it's worth it, right? Or like, and it's $900 a month if you train their members, which that means you got to be walking the gym floor trying to get members there. If you bring your own clients, it's $1,200 a month, which is even more expensive. But again, if you have an established client base, that's a drop in the bucket compared to how much you're going to make. So that's your cost plus marketing, right? Then there's also value-based marketing. Value-based marketing is where you price your service based on the perception of value. So like, this is where you're basically trying to make your pricing seem as appealing as like possible, right? So how can the value of your product affect it, right? So it's the perception rather than the cost, like Equinox charges like 100, I think it's like $150 a month for their memberships. Maybe it's like $100 a month, but it's expensive. And their gyms got some stuff that's better than other gyms, but like not always. Some of their equipment is the same equipment you'd find at 24-hour fitness, but the perception is that you are paying for this premium. You're paying for this exclusive membership that other people don't have access to. There's competitive based pricing, which is actually, this is probably something where you're probably going to start. Competitive based pricing is you're going to look at the area, see how much your competitors are charging, and you're going to either match it or go slightly below it. So what's the going rate for training in your area? That's competitive based pricing. And then there's psychological based pricing, and psychological based pricing is basing your price on something that looks better. $199 does look better than 200. Not everybody falls for this, but most people do. They're going to see this price and they're going to go, that's way better. So making small adjustments to your prices can be, an effective way. And you're not going to choose one of these things. You're going to choose all of these things, or a combination of these things. So when you're choosing your prices, these are some of the things that you kind of want to consider. I really do recommend, by the way, that value, like, volume packaging. Really, guys, like, charge less for more sessions. That convenience is huge. Other things to consider when you're pricing, you're coming up with your pricing strategy. Are you going to do like, what are your credit terms? Are you doing everything through Venmo? Because if you are, that's great. Venmo doesn't charge you anything if you do like the slow transfer. But if you're accepting like credit cards through like the Square app, for instance, they're going to charge you a percentage of like how much when you swipe that credit card. Or they might charge you like a flat fee. If they're charging you a flat fee, let's say it's $2, right? That's not very much, but it's something, right? Well, you should charge your client for that $2. So it's like, that's something that's worked in. This is why, by the way, if you've ever wondered why when you go to like 7-Eleven, they'll tell you that they have like a $5 minimum for like withdrawing cash or whatever. It's because the company that, their credit card machine charges them. That's why some places don't even take credit. They're like, no, we want to charge, I priced out this sandwich. It cost, I spend, $2 on ingredients, so I'm charging $5 for the sandwich. If I've also got to pay $1.50 in a credit card fee, it eats into my profits, and I don't think people are going to pay $7.50 for the sandwich, right? So those are the things that you kind of need to consider when you're coming up with your prices. Now, like I said, place and promotion, these sometimes get a little muddled, but let's keep them clean. Place is the channels your product will go through in order to reach your customer. Basically, you want to think of this as like market coverage, right? So, are you going to do like widespread distribution of your product? Like, is your personal training services is going to be marketed everywhere? You're just going to plaster your neighborhood, every tree, every telephone pole, just like a picture of your face being like, train with me. You can do that. It's a valuable strategy. But that's what your place is the channels that your product will go through in order to meet your customers. So most like large scale gyms rely on what we call intensive distribution, which is basically where they're just on a huge national scale, and you're getting flyers from LA Fitness constantly and stuff like that, right? That's sort of your traditional like big box gym, you're probably not going to do that. Instead, you're probably going to focus on selective distribution instead. So this is going to narrow where you are distributing your promotions to like a very small area, right? So usually, like I said, it's going to be like local coffee shops, although coffee shops doesn't really shout fitness to me. But if you were to go to like a Jamba Juice, I mean, Jamba Juice, for the record, is not healthy. Let me just get that out of the way. But people perceive it as healthy. So you can absolutely go to a place like that, or like an acai bowl restaurant, go to like health restaurants and things like that. Get your flyers up. A lot of businesses are willing to do that. They're willing to partner. Or at least let you just post your flyers up. Maybe you decide to run social media and you do like a promotion with like some other social media person, and you're like, hey, you're marketing exactly the same people I'm marketing to. And that's where you're going to market towards, right? So that's selective distribution. You can choose a few like key areas to market. And then you've got exclusive distribution, which honestly, this is something that probably will not apply to anybody. But that restricts it to like a single seller. So like, when you go to Costco and they have like the Kirkland brand stuff, Kirkland exclusively distributes stuff to Costco. You go to Trader Joe's, they've got all their own product line of like cookies and stuff. That's exclusive distribution. 24 Hour Fitness has its own line of supplements. Equinox, they have their own line with like all those certifications we talked about. So that's like exclusive distribution, exclusive marketing. But that's basically the area that you're going to put stuff, like what area of town. If you're marketing your personal training services here in the Valley and you're putting up flyers in Santa Monica, no, don't do that, right? Not very wise. And then promotion is kind of similar to place. Like I said, it's the communication of information about your product or service, right? So this is what you think of when you think of advertising, which is probably what a lot of people thought of when I first mentioned, we were talking about like marketing today. You probably jumped to the idea of advertising, and advertising and marketing are not quite the same thing. Advertising is a part of marketing. Marketing is like how to come up with like the world's most effective product, right? So advertising, radio, television, print, word of mouth, that's the biggest one for us, right? Word of mouth is going to be your number one marketing tool. Basically, you're going to train a client. That client's going to tell their friend. That friend's going to call you and be like, hey, I also, Steve said you're a really great trainer. I want to work with you. Word of mouth is definitely your best, your number one tool. I'll tell you one thing that I used to do, and this is something that I unwittingly did that ended up having like a really positive impact. So I sort of like, I always give my clients a very traditional, I'll tell you one thing, this is also very not NASM. This is not NASM style, a NASM style thing, but this is something I've done for years. A lot of people I can't really convince to get on a treadmill or to get on the elliptical. A lot of people just like to show up late instead. So they're often not like physically warm going into the start of a training session. So I always want people to do like their specific stretches for their warm up. But I also want their body to be warm before going into the training session, because that means they're less likely to get injured. So what I often do with my clients is I will teach them a warm-up routine that consists of, Robert, we know that we get the tight soleus, right? So for you, it would be, I would do like a soleus stretch. If your arms fall forward, Raul, I'd be like, I'm going to have you do a lat stretch. If your knees cave in, Charlie, I would have him do like a biceps femoris hamstring stretch instead of like a 90-90 hamstring stretch. So I would like give them their specific stretches. But then afterwards, every client would go through this basic little body weight calisthenics routine that would basically be me. Instead of putting them on the treadmill for 5 minutes, it would just be a bunch of dynamic stretches that would sort of increase their core temperature, because it's like a little body weight circuit that kind of gets their blood pumping. So, and you guys have done this if you've been to the park with me, where it's like you do the high knees, the butt kickers, the hen pecks, the arm circles, the spinal twist. all that really basic stuff, and just like maybe 1 to 3 rounds of that. And I would do that with every one of my clients. And it created word of mouth marketing for me without me realizing it. Because what would happen is there would just be 6 or 7 people in this gym, and they would all go through the same sequence of stretches, and they would all do it in the same area, because I would always just find like a strip of land in the gym where I could have them all do it. And what would happen is, like, inevitably someone would be on the treadmill, you know, they'd be there on the treadmill 5 days in a row, and they'd see this lady doing these little hen pecks and then butt kickers and then high knees and then, you know, spinal twist. They'd like do all these things, and then they'd still be there, and an hour later someone else would show up and they would do the same sequence. And I would get people in the gym who would be like, who's the dude teaching all these people the same exercises? And it ended up creating word of mouth marketing for me, because then eventually someone would see me leading someone through that and teaching them how to do it. And then they would come over and approach me and be like, hey, I keep seeing everybody doing this sequence of stretches. Would you mind showing that to me? And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. And I would just maybe take 5 minutes to teach it to them. But then maybe it would also pivot into a conversation of like, yeah, if you'd like, you know, I'd love to take you through, like, these are all general stretches. If you'd like to learn a little bit about like what exercises you need to do specifically, let's do a fitness assessment. Let's meet for an hour. And they're like, oh, well, I already got my free fitness assessment. And I'd be like, well, that's all right. I'll do it for you for free again. And then maybe you'll, you know, be incentivized to sign up for training afterwards. I'd be super transparent like that. I'd be like, you know, well, I'll give you another one as long as you hear out my sales pitch at the end. And they would be like, all right, well, I'm not going to fall for the sales pitch, you know? And then I'd put them through the assessment. And they'd be like, well, I really want to train with you. And be like, all right, well, then I don't need to do the sales pitch, you know? So word of mouth marketing, guys, it is your #1 best tool. And the best way to have good word of mouth marketing is to be a good trainer. So I'm not really, you know, that's going to happen naturally for you guys anyways. I'm not worried about that one. But speaking of that, like I said, being that word of mouth is so important, this is another term that NASM is going to want you to know. One of the best ways to ensure that you are successfully marketing your services and you are successfully, applying this word of mouth marketing is to be the best trainer that you can be. And the best way to do that is to provide what is called uncompromising customer service. So when you hear people say like the customer is always right? What they mean by that is like you are being friendly and helpful, and no matter how belligerent or annoying a customer is, you are uncompromised in your efforts to help them. I like that definition. I think it's kind of funny because the customer is almost always wrong. You know, if they were right about everything, they wouldn't need a personal trainer, right? But our version of uncompromised customer service is you as the trainer are consistently trying to add as much value as possible to every one of your clients and every one of your training sessions. So that means that you are continually trying to be the best trainer that you can be for your clients at all times. That's what uncompromising customer service is. At least that's what the customer service side of things. The uncompromising part of it is you never give up trying to be the best trainer that you can be. And you also don't do anything to go too far above and beyond your client. You are uncompromised in the sense that, like, you know, like, here's the best example I can give you of uncompromised customer service. Your client is hiring you to train them. That's your job. You're going to get close with your clients. They're going to be, you know, they're gonna be like friends with your clients, right? But you need to maintain that professional, you know, wall between you and the client. I used to train a woman at her house, and she had the same routine every time, which is great. She would always, for her warm up, she actually didn't do that sequence of stretches. What she would do is she would walk her dog, and so she would walk her dog around the block, right? And one day I showed up, and you know, this is gonna make this woman kind of sound weird, but she's a great client. She was a nice lady. But I showed up and she was just running behind. She was like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm running late. I was getting ready for this thing that I got to go to, and I got to leave. We have to make sure that our session ends directly on time today. I often get customers telling me that because sometimes I'm not so great about ending on time. Again, time management. That's one of my worst qualities, I'd say, in an interview. But she was like, hey, I need to, end our session on time today so I can get in the shower and get on the road. I got to be at this meeting. And she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to warm up today. And normally, like I said, I like to have my clients warmed up before I get there so that, I don't have to spend a ton of time on it. And so she's like, would you do me a favor? Normally I walk my dog before, our training session starts. Would you mind taking my dog around the block and I will do my stretches right now? Yeah, it sounds like a weird question, and it was a weird question. And I was like, and in my head, I had to very quickly consider everything that she was asking of me, right? I had to go, this is a customer that I do, that I want to provide customer service with. I want them to be happy. I want to keep them as a client, which means that I need to do things to make them pleased. But at the same time, I do not want to step over this line that starts to blur the client trainer relationship. So I was like, counter offer, what if I walk with you while you're walking your dog, and that way we don't start our session late and we'll warm up along the way. And she was like, deal. So, we did start our session a little bit later than normal. She still got her walk in. She was able to walk her dog, and I walked with her while she walked her dog, and I didn't have to pick up dog crap. So, I didn't blur the lines. I applied customer service, but I didn't compromise the relationship, right? It's opening the door for your client when they show up to the gym, not walking them to their car. There's a difference between the two. That would actually, you can walk your client to their car, it's fine. But it's not helping them unload their groceries. I think those are all really nice things to do, but it blurs the line of this professional relationship. Success depends greatly on your reputation. Are you going to be that trainer that goes above and beyond for your clients? Are you adding as much value to your sessions as possible, right? If my client has a question, I always want to be the guy who takes time to answer it. Every single question, every single time. I always want to answer them all. That's customer service to me, right? So take every opportunity to get to know your client, know everything there is to know about them, right? What are their hobbies? What are their interests, right? Remember to always represent a positive image of professionalism, right? Don't get too close with your clients. Your clients are going to get close, by the way. You're spending an hour with this person and there's nothing really to do in between sets other than talk about something, which is going to be the stuff in their lives, and your clients are going to tell you deep, dark secrets. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining that level of professionalism. It's okay to tell them about what's going on in your week. I think I tell you guys constantly about what's going on in my life. But it's never I don't want to, if I am super, if I'm training a client and we're talking about improving their health, and I say something like, man, I went out this weekend and I got so hammered I threw up in the bar, leave that stuff at the door. Your client does not need to hear any of that. Never, ever, ever, and this one's huge, give the impression that any question is inconvenient, any question is unnecessary or unintelligent. Do not give your client the impression. Always take the time to answer their questions. That's going to be huge. You want your clients to feel as comfortable as possible. And I love this one right here. Express your ideas through verbal communication, tonality, and body language. When you're talking to your clients, again, don't be on your phone speaking in a monotone, acting like you don't want to be there, crossing your arms, slouching, all that stuff. It conveys the wrong type of message. You want to convey this message that you are there and you're engaged and you're excited that they are in your session. And then obsess over opportunities to create moments that strengthen your professional relationships. This is kind of a cool one, right? Like what we mean by that is like, what can you do? Like when you are, if your client is, if you are trying to like offer like these effective services, what is it like, what can you manifest in your sessions that, you know, get somebody like excited to come back, or just like, you know, feel safe and comfortable, and, you know, like they're having a really good time. Obsess on those opportunities that kind of strengthen those relationships. You know, for me, it's even like the little small things, of just saying hi, or like starting consistently at a certain time. Try to create like those moments. And then don't just receive complaints. When somebody like does complain about something, don't just go, yeah, that sucks, right? Instead, try to take ownership of them and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna see what I can do to like make that better, you know? Sorry that happened. Let me see what I can do to you know, improve that situation. I might not succeed, but at least I'm going to put in the effort, you know? So those are all examples of uncompromised customer service, right? You are doing everything in your power, but you are not crossing the line. So end of the day, this is technically the last slide. We got the summary slide after this, but end of the day, I said this earlier. If you forget everything, remember this. I lied. Here's the one thing I want you to remember. If you forget everything I say today, you remember one thing. Remember this line. Successful personal trainers routinely ask themselves this question. They're continually refreshing this idea in their head. If my entire future were based on the way this one person evaluated their experience right now, would I change anything? What we mean by that is like, if you are in the middle of a session and you're tired and you're worn out because maybe you had a really late night, maybe you're just exhausted because life has been really busy lately, maybe it's the end of your block and you just trained 8 clients in a row and you haven't had a chance to get anything to eat today, you know, it's going to be easy for you to get cranky. It's going to be easy for you to get tired. It's going to be easy for you to be annoyed. So what you want to ask yourself, and it'll remind you and put you back in that work, you know, professional kind work mode, is just ask yourself, is like, if my entire future, you know, if my entire success in this world relied on how this person feels right now, or, you know, based on their experience, like right now, is there anything I would change to make it better? And if your answer is like, nope, I'm crushing it. Yeah, like great answer. I love that. You know, like stay confident. That's awesome. But like, that's what you want to continually ask yourself all the time. So summarizing everything up, 4 Ps. Notice how that's the only thing on the summary slide. Again, this is probably going to be test questions. The marketing mix of the 4 Ps is an excellent tool to help you, you know, develop strategies to create a successful personal training service or business. You need to understand what your product, your price, your place, and your promotion are, right? Again, kind of going back to them, your product is the service that you are selling. The price is, you know, the amount charged for your product, including credit policies, volume discounts, seasonal pricing, things like that. The place are the channels that your product is going through to meet your customer. You know, are you doing online training at home like we're doing right now? Like the place is at home currently, instead of the place being North Hollywood. And promotion is like, you know, the channels that your product is going through promotion wise to meet your customers. Like, are they hearing about it on radio? Are they hearing about social media, flyers, word of mouth? You know, what is it? And that is sort of, this is sort of like your life's homework. You know, like for those of you who are not interested in working at 24 or LA Fitness or Golds or anything like that, for those of you who are, you know, considering going into business for yourself, you just got your life's homework assignment. Because this is what's going to help you, you know, kind of create that successful product, or service, a service really. Do you guys have any questions today? How's everybody feeling?
No questions, but I have a comment to make on the resources you provided with the assessment, you know, to have all the tools to be able to assess the customer, the client, where they're at physically. That's great. And what you mentioned about the dog walking, that's, I like the clarity of, you know, to be able to think on your feet real quick without, because that hour would have been kind of awkward if you said no.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it wouldn't
Yeah.
be a very good customer. And you're gonna get stuff like that. You know, I've had clients say like, hey, can I pay you to, you know, I'm trying to set up a home gym right now. And I don't know how to clean these dumbbells. Do you know how to clean dumbbells? Can I pay you to take this set of dumbbells? I bought this like rusty pair off Craigslist. And I was like, I'm not a handyman. I'm your trainer. You know, could I have gone to the store and bought some of that CLR stuff and, you know, dumped those dumbbells in a bucket and scrubbed them? Probably. But it's not right. I don't want to blur those lines. You can blur those lines. I know plenty of trainers who do, you know, but it's not, you know, it's not a road that I want to go down. That's actually why. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's just like the adaptability, you know, to be quick on your feet. And I love how you just pointed that out. So thank you.
I had a client that I fired. I mean, like, I've had a lot of clients that I fire. I fire clients constantly. If you don't put in the effort, I'm busy, man. I'll drop you as a client like that. But I had a client who's like a really close friend now, that like I don't train anymore because he became a really close friend. And it was just, there was like kind of this moment where it was like, I mean, luckily I had a pretty easy out. So I didn't have to like have like a deep conversation of like, hey, I'm not going to train you anymore because, you know, it feels awkward to take money from a friend, you know? But like, that's kind of what happened. I mean, we just got to this place like, at one point, you know, and I totally did it, by the way. This is when I was younger. And so I totally did blur this line, and this is an unprofessional thing that I did 100%. But he was like going out of town, and he was like, hey, I'm going out of town. You know, I'm asking, he had a couple of trainers actually, everyone to sort of stop by and like just check on his place once a day, which was actually fine. Like it was like a house sitting situation. And if you want to get, if your client wants to hire you for something else and they want to pay you for it, sure. That's actually, I mean, you don't have to avoid stuff like that. And that wasn't really like a blurred line situation. I was like, sure, you're paying me. It's fine. I'll stop by and just, you know, make sure that your plants are watered and stuff. But he was like, he had like a really nice like Tesla, and he's like, why don't you borrow it for the week? And he like left his keys. And I was like, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to like drive a Tesla around LA for a week. That's incredible. Hell yeah. And I was excited to do it. Totally unprofessional. Totally shouldn't have done that. You know, if I'm being the world's most professional person. So yeah. Any other questions on stuff like that? I'm excited for you guys to have these stories of your own. Personal training is a weird industry. My roommates were commenting. They were like, every time we walk by your room, it feels like you're mid-story about something. And I was like, just a lot of stuff just happens in the world of training. You know, you're working with so many individual people.
Yeah, I think the label, as you were saying that, the label actually describes it. Personal. It can get kind of personal in some parts and in some aspects, and in training, that's like very black and white.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, if you don't have any questions today, I'm gonna boot you all out of here. And tomorrow we'll kind of keep going on the realm of like, you know, starting your own business, going down the road of like being your own boss and stuff like that. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow again, and how to get into some real stuff.
See you tomorrow, Brad.
All right. See you tomorrow, guys.
Thank you, Brad. All right, Brad.
Later. Have a good one.
All right, Brad. Do you ask